AITAH for not going along with my wife's friend's stereotypes.
I don't know who I'm kidding. I was kind of an asshole. I've managed to dig myself into a little bit of a hole and am looking for help to try to get myself out of it. Some background: I have been happily married to my wife for the last 23 years. When we met, she was a school teacher, and I had been in the military for almost 8 years. 12 years ago, the military put us in a position, a series of shitty transfers, that it made sense for her to resign from her job to follow me around and take care of the children. Earlier this year, I finally retired, and now we are in our late 40s, one kid out of the house with another almost on their own, and we are living our best life. My wife has a good friend, Gretchen, who is a Som and lives close by. Her kids are middle school to high school aged. Before I retired, I knew that Gretchen was frequently at our house and my wife over hers, but the amount of time they spent together didn't really register with me. I don't mind having her around one bit. I generally keep myself pretty busy catching up on almost 30 years of postponed hobbies and projects. Gretchen, on the other hand, I think, kind of resents the fact that I'm constantly around now. And while she's nice, there's an edge of snarky/sarcasm that I picked up on. Most of it is remarks that revolve around the trope that men are inept/helpless around the house, and that they need a woman behind them to take care of them/everything. That might be the case with Gretchen and her husband Whitmer. I know Whitmer on a surface level. He's a cop, nice enough dude, easy to talk about sports and stuff with. However, he seems to me to not be very inclined to do housework, fix anything, read anything, or do anything productive besides drink beer and earn a paycheck. But that's just me judging. I, however, already owned a house before I met my wife that was always kept up and clean. I did my laundry, cooked for myself, made my own appointments, managed my money, and got where I needed to be on time, etc. Granted, I did much less of the housework when my wife stopped working, but I still pulled my own weight. I generally have always taken care of the family finances, managed the family calendar, taken care of the yard/pool/car/house repairs when not on deployment, and helped with whatever my wife was doing on any day that involves chores. My last assignment in the military was managing/scheduling maintenance on 15 aircraft, and was responsible for the care, feeding, and career progression of the almost 300 technicians and mechanics assigned to me. I am not scared of doing laundry. I much prefer it to my old job. On to the event. Gretchen was over hanging out in the kitchen. Wife was doing breakfast dishes while they were talking. I was putzing in the garage, putting new batteries in my electric riding beer cooler. Passing through the kitchen, I gave the wife a pat on the back and a kiss on the cheek. Gretchen piped up with some comment about how lucky I was to have her. I responded with an enthusiastic "sure am. We make the best team ever," or something like that. Gretchen spouted off something like, "I think we all know who's carrying this team, and they probably don't get enough credit." What? Internal dialogue/surprise face. I looked at the wife, who just kind of shrugged at me and tried to play it off. She changed the subject, and they started talking about something else, so I exited stage left and finished my battery installation and then rode my cooler around the neighborhood. That night, I asked the wife about the odd interaction, and specifically asked if she thought I wasn't pulling my weight around the house. She said that she has never complained to Gretchen about me, but has listened to Gretchen's complaints for a long time about O.L. Whitmer. She never specifically told her about the kind of husband I am, because it would have made Gretchen feel worse about her situation. I made it clear, nicely, that leading Gretchen on by omission and having her think I'm a shitbag isn't right, and she should really stick up for me and sing my praises to her friends like I would about her to my friends. So fast forward 2 weeks, and I catch another stray from Gretchen. I walk through the kitchen carrying laundry. She kind of half-jokingly, half-not-joking said, "That's a first," and giggled at my wife. I gave my wife a look and waited about 10 seconds for her to stick up for me. When nothing happened, I left. 10 minutes later, I came back. "Honey, did you make an appointment for Kamala's sports physical?" Wife, sheepishly. "No, you did." "Did you add it to the shared calendar?" Wife, sheepishly. "No, you did." "Okay, I forgot." Gretchen, "How does Whitmer keep track of the family appointments?" Gretchen kind of looked at me as she processed things. No reply. I left. Came back a few minutes later and repeated the process with the meal plan and grocery shopping. Popped in a little later and had the same conversation about some bills I took care of. I had about 10 more subjects teed up that I never got to use, as apparently Gretchen started to tear up and left the house. The wife was pretty frosty with me later and said that I had gone too far. My reply is that if she wife would have taken care of it in the first place, it wouldn't have been an issue. Once I had to defend myself, it was bound to go sideways. It's been a couple days now, and Gretchen hasn't answered my wife's texts or come over. My wife is still incredibly upset and wants me to reach out. I'm all about owning my piece of this nonsense. If there's an adult conversation to be had, I'll participate, but I'm not about to apologize for this nonsense and try to fix it on my own. Any advice from Reddit besides lawyer/Jim/Facebook would be appreciated. So it's been a wild couple of days since my last post. Should probably give an update. First up, my wife, Ivanka, and I have had some pretty long conversations over the last couple days. Most of them brought about because of the situation with Gretchen. When I met Ivanka, she was a single school teacher with her own apartment, car, friends, life, etc. Part of the reason, besides being smart, kind, and pretty, I was drawn to her is because lots of the military spouses that I had been exposed to during the early part of my career were not in any way self-sufficient or career-driven. In other words, I knew she wasn't into me just for the TRICARE and the paycheck. Throughout my career, she never had close ties to the other spouses and was not a traditional military wife. We were a regular couple, and I just happened to be in the military. Somehow, very slowly over the years, she has slowly shifted many of her personal responsibilities onto me, whether intentional or unintentional. She has almost regressed as a person to the point where she really isn't self-sufficient anymore. For example, I asked her how much money is in her checking account, no clue. Who her auto insurance is through, no idea. I have to admit that I've totally enabled this behavior and have allowed this to happen. I was so caught up in my career and doing my best to make her life as easy as possible due to the sacrifices that she made that I inadvertently made her life too easy. All she has had to do is wake up, get the kids out the door, do basic housework, and then enjoy herself. That is something that we both have to address and work on, as it really isn't a healthy dynamic, especially now that we are both retired and have an equal amount of time on our hands and an equal amount of stress. So on to the more pressing issue of Gretchen and Whitmer. A couple days after the last post, I was working on some stuff in the garage, not the riding beer cooler, which is awesome, and up the driveway comes OL Whitmer. Whitmer was agitated and started going in on me for making his wife cry. He wants to know what the F and K I said that disrespected his wife. I'm in pretty good shape, but am not looking to fight an off-duty cop in my driveway. Despite a long and distinguished military career, I had never received, or sought out for that matter, any hand-to-hand training. Heck, I only fired real ammo 4 times in my career, 3 times at paper enemies, and once at a killer tomato. I successfully defended my position in all of these encounters, by the way. So needless to say, I was going to have to use my incredible reasoning powers to handle this one. And I used the greatest trick I had up my sleeve. Bro, kill. You want a beer? I knew I had thrown him a curve. I watched his face as he went through his internal decision-making flowchart. F at and K. I guess. Okay, now we're going places. Once we got a beer number 2, Whitmer broke the ice. Dawn, that's me. Why is she crying? I came home from work a couple days ago to her all teary. She has been sad ever since and wouldn't tell me why. Finally today, she said that you told her some things that made her feel uncomfortable, and that's why she's been depressed and crying. So I gave Whitmer the Reader's Digest version of my last couple of interactions with Gretchen. Surprisingly, Whitmer took it fairly well and exhibited much more emotional intelligence than I would have given him credit for. I actually felt bad for kind of judging him as kind of a lunk/jock/cop stereotype. Once we got a beer number 6, Whitmer opened up some more. Turns out he knew he wasn't carrying his weight around the house. He was burnt out from working a ton of overtime the last couple of years to make ends meet. Gretchen had not been managing the household finances well and made a few rash financial decisions to keep up appearances with, get this, us. Gretchen wanted vacations and the things that she saw Ivanka and I having. We aren't flashy people, honestly. We've been on some great vacations, but we flew Space A for free and didn't bring the kids. They're old enough to stay home the last couple years. We got nice cars and have done some nice home improvements. However, the cars we have for us and the kids average about 12 years old, just kept up nice and clean, and the home improvements I did myself over a fairly long period of time. It's not a product of money, mostly sweat equity. Keeping up with us and paying retail for everything is a losing proposition. and I tried to gently explain to Whitmer that it's probably unrealistic to try. The conversation weaved and meandered for another couple hours, and another couple, many beers. Me and Whitmer Speed ran a couple years of friendship in a few hours. At this point, it was getting late, about 4 p.m. I knew Ivanka was going to be less than happy about me tying one on in the garage starting at 9 a.m. Whitmer and I parted ways in great terms. The next morning, I decided that the best course of action was to change fuel filters on the truck. The heat outside, smell of diesel, and lying on your back on the concrete is great self-punishment for drinking too much. If I would have done this every time I had a few, I would probably have drank less in my life and been better looking and skinnier. After a while, I heard a kerfuffle coming from the house. Gretchen was leaving, didn't know she was there, and screaming to someone, I assume my wife, about us ruining her marriage. Since the threat was opening the distance between herself and the house, I made a tactical decision to stay under the truck. Here we are. Can't wait to see what awaits me inside. And if I don't post again, please assume the worst. Don.